friends, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new, welcome. My name is Gina. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Today I wanted to read people's real ghost stories. I've been checking out Reddit and other, online communities where people share their stories. I did read a lot of them ahead of time, but I also wanted to keep a lot of them a surprise for myself because I feel like it's just more fun if I'm experiencing them at the same time as you're experiencing them. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get into some spooky stories. By the way, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. I have a lot of Halloween content coming out for the month of October, so if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you stay tuned for that. And also let me know if you guys really like this kind of stuff and if you'd like to see more paranormal type things on my channel regularly. Honestly, I'd be happy to make those kind of videos too, like more regularly than just Halloween. I feel like it does make it a little bit more special just to do it for Halloween, but I am honestly just really interested in the paranormal in general. So I wouldn't mind making more videos like this if this is what you guys really like to see, but let me know. So I noticed there are a couple themes. So some of these stories are a little bit more like a heartwarming ghost story, and there's some of them that are really creepy. So I kind of want to read a combination of both. I think heartwarming ghost stories are kind of fun too because it kind of tells you that your loved ones aren't completely gone when they pass away. They're still there and they still watch over you, and I think that's just really beautiful and really cool. But obviously we all love a good spook too, so I'll be reading a combination of both. So this person is actually telling their father's story and it's really cool. So anyways, let's get into it. My stepmom and dad used to work opposite shifts for a while. He was on nights, she was on days. They had a set of baby monitors from when my sister and I were babies. My dad said they could record short messages with them and they would leave them out on the coffee table for the other to hear when they got home from their shift. This went on for a bit, then once their shifts lined up, they put the monitors away in storage. My mom died of cancer at a really young age, and my dad had just gotten back from the funeral and was home alone. He spent that night going through her things, packing some of her stuff away. He said one of the baby monitors sitting out on the coffee table woke him up in the middle of the night with an old message going off on repeat that she had recorded. It said, "I love you, Mike. I love you, Mike," over and over. My dad told me he just sat on the couch in the dark and listened to her message until the batteries died. A couple of weeks later, he picked up the kids for the weekend. After my sister and I went inside, he said he was on the porch smoking, and a strong gust of wind blew, and he said he could smell her perfume that she always wore. It scared me hearing these stories as a kid, but now I see the beauty and the peace in those experiences. I think that is so cool. I believe it. I think and honestly, it just sounds very believable. Like some stories, it's just like, why would you make up a story of your mom dying, Just, I don't know. I think I believe that one. So this one's actually really cool. My mother split and transplanted a rose bush from my grandparents' farm about 40 years ago. It took but never bloomed. At that point, she only kept it because it grew into the fence nicely and kept us kids from climbing it. My grandfather died about 5 years after she transplanted it, and that spring it bloomed red roses. A few years after that, my grandmother died, and the spring after it bloomed white roses. These are the only 2 years it ever bloomed. Oh my god, that gives me shivers. I think that's so cool. Oh my goodness, isn't that amazing? Okay, so this one's a little creepy. Growing up, my older brother had a computer program that he used to compose piano music on. I remember I was reading in the living room when I heard the most beautiful violin melody ever heard. I listened to the whole thing, which was several minutes long. I walked down the hallway to compliment my brother on his masterpiece when I realized my brother was not using his computer, and I was home alone. It's a little creepy, but I mean, how scary can a ghost be when he just wants to play some really beautiful music? It would freak me out a little bit, but I'd also be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know. All right, so here's another one. Once I was home alone babysitting my little brother. He fell asleep and I put him down in his crib. I went to the next room to study and dozed off on my books. I woke up to someone screaming in my ear. I jumped up and ran to the next room. My little brother had puked and was choking on his vomit. He wasn't making a sound. I was able to get him up and clear his airway. Not too sure who or what shouted in my ear. It was just the two of us home. Isn't that crazy? It's like something or someone was looking out for them and they were like, you need to wake up now because your brother's choking. That is insane. That's really cool. My dearly departed cat was very sensitive to human pain. Whenever someone in the house had period cramps, a headache, or was hurt, he'd come running to cuddle and be with you until you felt better. He recently passed away from a terminal form of stomach cancer, which left him so skinny and weak that he couldn't even get up to use the litter box. A week or two after he died, my mom developed a terrible round of kidney stones. She was puking left and right, and I heard her crying in her bedroom out of pain throughout the night. She told me that around 1 a.m. she got up to throw up in the bathroom. And as she was walking back to her bed, she saw our dead cat standing by the doorway, looking at her like he always did. She called his name and he disappeared, but she felt better by the morning and swears that he was there with her. Here's another one. This one looks a little creepy. One night when I was around 14, I went down to the kitchen, and as I passed by the living room, I saw the black silhouette of a man, probably around 6'7", sitting in one of those couches. He was following me with his eyes while smiling. You couldn't distinguish much more of his other features apart from those. I obviously freaked out and ran out of there. A few months later, my mom came to my room completely terrified, saying she had seen someone staring at her while she was coming up the stairs. She started describing the person, and it turns out it was the exact same silhouette I had seen, only this time he was standing. Funny thing is, I never told anyone about my experience, so you can imagine how I shit myself when I heard my mom's account. That's really creepy. I have to say, like, even creepier than seeing, like, someone that you can actually, you know, make out their face and their features and stuff, a black silhouette would probably be the scariest thing to see. And it might be just the way that we've been conditioned with movies and stuff, but I don't know. I feel like I would be more scared to see a black silhouette than just to see a ghost that looks like a white, you know, see-through spirit or whatever. Here's another one. When I first started dating my now ex-wife, she lived in a small ranch house in the country with her parents. She had a couple of dogs, one of which, Patsy, died a few months after I started coming around. Her death was not really traumatic, except to her, I suppose. I think old age, maybe? Anyway, a couple of years ago, we drove to see my future wife's parents. It was nighttime and dark except for the light coming from inside the house. I got out of the driver's side, and as I walked around to the front of the car, standing there was Ghost Patsy looking at me. I could see right through her to the ground on the other side. It was like she read how ghosts were supposed to look. After a couple of very long seconds, the image disappeared. I had not said a word. I turned to my future ex and said, "Did you see that?" And she replied, "Do you mean Patsy's ghost?" So not only did I see it, I got exact independent adult confirmation. Never saw the ghost dog or any ghost again. That's so funny. Not long ago after my mom died, we found out that we had 2 older sisters that we didn't know about. My oldest sister came down to visit us when we finally found her. She slept in my mom's old room. I stayed in the same room as my brother while my sister was with us. I woke up randomly one night and looked over towards my brother's bed to see her ghost standing near my brother's bed looking down at him. She then turned to look at me and gave me an "oh shit, I've been caught" kind of look, then disappeared. I wasn't scared in the slightest because I knew who the ghost was. If it were a random ghost, I'd probably have jumped out of the bedroom window out of fright to escape. Yeah, I guess if you're seeing your loved one, like, you can't be too scared. You might be a little startled by it, but I don't know. Like, there's some people I'm like, I just really want to see their ghost, but I mean, I guess the fact that I haven't means that they've passed on. Here's another one. I think this one might be a scary one, so hopefully it's spooky. A group of me and my friends rented out a cottage to use for a week. I was sleeping in the attic when I heard a really terrible shrill. The thought of it is still creepy. Let me tell you, it sounded like a woman, but at the same time, it didn't sound human at all. It had this weird echo to it. I am 100% certain I was awake when I heard this. I was terrified. I was frozen in my place as I didn't want to look and see whatever it was. It went on for a long time before it died down. The creepiest part is my friend who was sleeping beside me said he slept soundly and never heard a woman screaming, even though the loudness of it would have disturbed his sleep. I didn't sleep in the attic after that. I wouldn't have slept in the attic in the first place. Like, who sleeps in the attic? I guess part of me would be very curious to go in an attic to see what, like, different things I would find, because I feel like a lot of old attics hold a lot of different, you know, old objects and history and stuff, but I wouldn't go up by myself. I would go in the daytime with somebody else or like a few other people and then be like, okay, I'm done. But yeah, I wouldn't be sleeping in an attic. Alright, here's another one. I hope it's scary. I think it's supposed to be scary. As a teenager, I used to have to wake myself up in the middle of the night semi-frequently to check blood sugar. One night after midnight, as I was walking back to my room, in the hallway mirror, I saw a pair of hands that were not mine reaching for me in the mirror. It scared the ever-living piss out of me, and I sprinted to the bed as fast as I could. I begged my parents to get rid of the mirror, but they insisted I grow out of it. I saw the same hands reaching for me when I was a child and we lived in a different town. I've seen them several times since. always reaching for me from a mirror. I've woken up drenched in sweat and terrified at 3 a.m. a few other times. I close all the bathroom doors so no mirror is exposed overnight. That seems to be the best defense. I've got no idea what would happen if they actually touched me. Oh my god, that's really creepy. It's funny because a lot of people say to like cover mirrors at nighttime or don't look at mirrors in the nighttime. Mirrors have never scared me, but I guess if I read too many of these stories, they might. But I have a giant mirror literally right across from my bed here because it's my vanity. And then I have another long, like, you know, full body length mirror on this wall. So I'm literally surrounded by mirrors when I sleep. And it doesn't bother me, but I mean, I also don't really pay much attention to the mirrors when I sleep. I just go to bed, but I don't know. I've heard some creepy stories about mirrors at nighttime. Years ago, I was laying in my bed with the lights completely off. It was around 2:30 in the morning. I couldn't sleep, so I just stared at the door. Then I noticed a small shadow, the size of a child, in the corner of the room. I sat up a bit to see better when it suddenly sprinted towards the door and vanished. These types of things were common at the time, but what is creepy is that seconds after what I saw left the room, I heard a loud noise from my mom's room across the hall. My stepfather saw a child figure run in the room and towards him, making him jump out of bed and over to the lights. It scared the shit out of him. He saw the child figure several times between then and the day we moved out. I don't know what it is about kids, but like ghost children for some reason are just really, really creepy. And it's probably just because of all the different movies and stuff that have been put out, and a lot of the time it's like a child, or you hear like a child giggling, or you hear children's music. For some reason, like, children are just really creepy. And I think it's because like children have an innocence to them, but like the idea of a child not being innocent or like demonic or evil is just like really creepy. I don't know what it is. All right, this one's a fairly long one. Let's read it and see what it's all about. So this is actually my dad's story, but it's worth telling. This happened either in the late 90s or early 2000s. My dad used to be a detective. They received a call once to collect a corpse. No foul play or anything. An elderly woman had passed away in her sleep. Nothing out of the ordinary until they show up and get the husband's account. As the wife passed in her sleep, the husband hadn't just woken up and realized she was dead upon waking up in the morning. In the middle of the night, he had woken up to a huge bang. He woke up, turned on the light, and realized a jar had fallen to the floor. That's what had caused the noise. It was an old Kraft peanut butter jar full of pennies, full to the very brim with pennies. When they asked the guy why he was so freaked out about the jar falling, he explained that it would have been impossible for this jar to fall independently. The jar was his wife's and had been stored at the very back of the closet on the top shelf, shoved all the way back for years. Someone would have literally had to fish through the closet and then push the jar off the shelf for it to fall. And it was heavy. Like, this thing wouldn't have just rolled off. It wasn't turned over on its side. It wasn't visible in plain sight. It would have been intentional. And weirdly enough, right after waking up to discovering this impossible jar of pennies had crashed to the floor, the man checked on his wife and realized she wasn't breathing and didn't have a pulse. Essentially, this guy, my dad, and his partner were all convinced the wife had passed away and her ghost pushed a gigantic jar of pennies onto the floor to get her sleeping husband's attention. The guy said it would just be like his wife to be pissed off that she died and he didn't even notice. This story always cracks me up. That's actually really funny, and I don't mean it's funny that the wife died, but it's funny that she's like, hey, like, hello, I passed away, like, wake up. All right, so let's read one more. I don't want this video to be too long, but yeah, let's read one more story. Hopefully it's a good one. My kids started telling us when she was 2 or 3 about when she wasn't, in brackets, her name, but when she was Kate, and worked in an office in Italy with her friend Melia. We had no idea where it came from. About this time, she started to have problems sleeping as well. She told my mom that she didn't like the little boy in the corner of her room. She explained that he had blonde hair and a red jumper on with socks, but no trousers. I stopped pressing for details after that one and just concentrated on healthy sleep patterns. She's 7 now and still afraid to go to sleep on her own, but doesn't remember Kate or the little boy. I think that's really creepy too. Like, if your kid tells you things like that, I also believe that kids are probably a lot more open or I guess, open to receive messages or see things. It's like their intuition hasn't been turned off by society in a way. I don't know. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I put up new videos every Tuesday and Thursday, and I hope you guys have an amazing day and amazing month of October. Stay tuned for more Halloween themed videos. Have a good one, guys. See you guys later. Bye-bye.